Evelyn Carter had spent most of her life trying to become invisible. At 29 years old, she was one of the smartest accountants in New York. Numbers made sense to her. They never lied. They never judged. They never looked at her body before listening to her words. People were different. Every morning, Evelyn wore loose sweaters and dark skirts. She kept her long brown hair tied back and avoided drawing attention to herself. It was easier that way. The finance company where she worked occupied the top floors of a glass tower overlooking the city. Everyone there seemed perfect. Perfect bodies. Perfect smiles. Perfect lives. And then there was Evelyn. She sat quietly at her desk, solving problems nobody else could solve while receiving almost none of the credit. "Morning, Evie." The voice made her stomach tighten. Sandra Mills walked past her desk with two co-workers. Sandra was tall, beautiful, and knew it. "Oh, look," Sandra said loudly. "Someone brought donuts. Better hide them before Evelyn finds them." The others laughed. Evelyn forced a smile and continued working. She was used to it. That didn't mean it hurt any less. Later that afternoon, the company held an important board meeting. Evelyn had spent 3 weeks preparing financial reports for the presentation. She had worked late every night while everyone else went home. As she entered the conference room, she saw her fiancé sitting near the front. Derek Holloway. For 3 years, she had loved him. For 3 years, she had believed he loved her too. Derek flashed his charming smile. For a moment, Evelyn felt better. Maybe today would be different. Maybe. The meeting began. Executives discussed investments and future projects. When questions appeared about the financial forecasts, Derek confidently stood. "As my team predicted," he said proudly, showing charts on the screen. Evelyn frowned. Those weren't his forecasts. She had created every single one. But she stayed silent. Then one executive asked a difficult question. Derek couldn't answer. The room became quiet. Evelyn softly raised her hand. "I can explain that." Before she could continue, Derek laughed. A few people smiled. Derek looked directly at her. "You don't need to worry about this, Evelyn." The room fell silent. Evelyn felt heat rising to her cheeks. Derek continued. "These discussions can get complicated." Several people exchanged uncomfortable looks. Then Derek made the mistake that would change everything. He laughed again and said, "Besides, Evelyn is better at checking spreadsheets than understanding business strategy." More laughter. Sandra covered her mouth, trying not to smile. Evelyn felt something break inside her. But Derek wasn't finished. His voice grew louder. "Let's be honest. She's not exactly the face of this company either." The room froze. Nobody laughed this time. The insult hung in the air like poison. Evelyn stared at him. 3 years. 3 years of love. 3 years of trust. And he had chosen this moment to humiliate her in front of everyone. Her hands trembled. "Derek." He shrugged. "What?" "I'm joking." But his eyes said otherwise. Then Evelyn noticed something strange. Sandra was sitting very close to him. Too close. A memory suddenly surfaced. Late-night messages. Secret phone calls. Business trips. Everything clicked together. Her heart sank. The truth hit her like a truck. Derek wasn't only embarrassed by her. He was cheating on her. With Sandra. The meeting continued, but Evelyn barely heard anything. The pain was too heavy. That evening, she packed her belongings. Nobody stopped her. Nobody apologized. As she stepped into the elevator, tears filled her eyes. The city lights blurred through the glass walls. 3 years. Gone. By the time she reached the street, rain was falling heavily. Thunder echoed across the sky. Evelyn walked without direction. She didn't care where she was going. She just wanted the pain to stop. The rain soaked her clothes. Cold wind brushed against her skin. Hours passed. Eventually she found herself in a part of the city she didn't recognize. The streets were darker here. Quieter. Dangerous. She should have turned around. But she didn't. Then she heard shouting. Voices. Angry voices. Evelyn stopped. The sounds came from a nearby alley. She glanced toward it. And instantly wished she hadn't. Several men stood in the shadows. One of them held a gun. Another man was backed against a black luxury car. The atmosphere felt deadly. Evelyn's heart nearly stopped. She quickly stepped backward. Unfortunately, her shoe splashed into a puddle. The sound echoed. Every head turned toward her. Silence. Terrible silence. "Oh no," she whispered. One of the armed men pointed. "Who's that?" Panic exploded inside her. She turned and ran. Footsteps followed. Fast. Very fast. Tears mixed with rain as she raced through the dark street. She could hear them getting closer. Then suddenly, a black SUV appeared around the corner. Its doors opened. Several men in dark suits jumped out. Everything happened at once. Shouting. Gunfire. Running. Chaos. Evelyn crouched behind a parked car and covered her ears. Minutes later, the noise stopped. The street became silent again. A pair of polished shoes appeared in front of her. Slowly, she looked up. The man standing there looked powerful enough to command armies. Tall. Broad shoulders. Dark suit. Sharp features. Cold gray eyes. Rain slid down his face as if even the weather feared him. He studied her quietly. Evelyn swallowed hard. I didn't see anything. His expression didn't change. Then he held out a hand. Stand up. His voice was calm. Dangerously calm. Evelyn obeyed. The man glanced toward the documents she had dropped during her escape. One folder had opened. Several pages were scattered across the wet ground. He picked one up. His eyes narrowed. You noticed this? Evelyn blinked. What? He pointed to a small section of numbers. Even upside down, she recognized the mistake instantly. Those transactions don't match, she said automatically. Someone moved money through 3 separate accounts to hide the real amount. The man's gaze sharpened. The men around him became silent. Evelyn suddenly realized what she had said. The stranger stepped closer. For the first time, something almost like interest appeared in his eyes. What is your name? Evelyn Carter. The corner of his mouth moved slightly. My name is Lorenzo Moetti. Fear washed through her. Everyone knew that name. Everyone. Lorenzo looked at her for several seconds. Then he opened a leather briefcase and removed a thick financial ledger. Tell me something, Miss Carter. He handed it to her. What do you see? Evelyn opened the book. She expected ordinary records. Instead, her eyes widened. Line after line. Account after account. Transaction after transaction. And hidden inside them all was something horrifying. Someone was stealing hundreds of millions of dollars. From Lorenzo Moetti himself. And whoever was doing it was sitting somewhere inside his empire. Evelyn barely slept that night. She sat inside a luxurious apartment overlooking the city skyline, staring at the financial ledger Lorenzo Moetti had given her. The numbers were everywhere. Rows. Columns. Transfers. Hidden accounts. Most people would never notice the pattern. Evelyn noticed it within minutes. Someone was stealing money from Lorenzo's organization through dozens of fake companies. The thief was careful. Very careful. But not careful enough. By sunrise, Evelyn had highlighted nearly 30 suspicious transactions. A knock came at the door. One of Lorenzo's security men entered. "Mr. Moetti wants to see you." Evelyn followed him through a private elevator that led directly into one of the tallest buildings in the city. The entire top floor belonged to Lorenzo. Everything looked expensive. Black marble floors. Dark wood walls. Floor-to-ceiling windows. The place felt less like an office and more like a kingdom. Lorenzo stood near the windows with his hands behind his back. Even in silence, he dominated the room. His grey suit fit perfectly. His expression remained unreadable. When Evelyn entered, he turned toward her. "What did you find?" She handed him the marked ledger. "A lot." His eyebrow lifted slightly. She opened several pages. "These companies don't really exist." Lorenzo glanced down. "Continue." "They move money in circles. Small amounts at first. Then larger amounts. Whoever built this system has been stealing for years." The room became very quiet. Several men standing nearby exchanged worried looks. Lorenzo's face remained calm. Too calm. "How much?" he asked. Evelyn swallowed. "At least $200 million. One of the men cursed. Another looked shocked. Lorenzo simply nodded, as if she had confirmed something he already suspected. Then he looked directly at her. "You're hired." Evelyn blinked. "What?" His voice remained steady. "You now work for me." Just like that. No interview. No contract discussion. No hesitation. Evelyn stared at him. "I don't know anything about your world." "You know numbers." His answer was immediate. "And right now, that's what I need." For the first time in years, someone had noticed her talent before noticing her appearance. The feeling was strange. Almost overwhelming. Later that morning, Lorenzo introduced her to several members of his organization. The reaction was exactly what Evelyn expected. Confusion. Doubt. Mockery. A large man named Victor looked her up and down. "This is the genius accountant." Several others laughed. Victor smirked. "No offense, boss, but she doesn't exactly look dangerous." More laughter. Evelyn lowered her eyes. The familiar sting returned. The same judgment. The same assumptions. Then Lorenzo slowly turned toward Victor. The temperature in the room seemed to drop instantly. His grey eyes settled on the man. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. Victor's smile disappeared. Lorenzo's voice was soft. Dangerously soft. "Neither does a bullet." Silence. Complete silence. Victor immediately looked away. "I'm sorry, boss." Lorenzo returned his attention to Evelyn. "Continue your report." Just like that. The discussion ended. Nobody laughed again. For the rest of the week, Evelyn worked inside Lorenzo's headquarters. Day after day, she dug deeper into the records. The more she found, the worse it became. The theft wasn't random. It was organized. Someone inside the organization was helping outsiders move money. The traitor had access to highly confidential accounts. That meant they were powerful. Very powerful. Meanwhile, Lorenzo visited her office more often than necessary. Sometimes he asked about financial reports. Sometimes he simply stood beside her desk, watching her work. At first, Evelyn found it intimidating. Eventually, she became used to it. One evening, she looked up from her computer. Lorenzo was standing near the door. "You skipped dinner." She blinked. "You noticed." His expression remained neutral. "I notice everything." For some reason, her heart skipped a beat. Lorenzo handed her a takeout container. "You need to eat." Evelyn accepted it. "Thank you." A small silence followed. Then Lorenzo spoke. Why did you leave your previous job? Evelyn looked down. She hadn't planned to discuss Derek. But somehow the words came out. She explained everything. The humiliation. The betrayal. The cheating. The laughter. When she finished, the room became very still. Lorenzo's jaw tightened. His eyes darkened. What was his name? Derek Holloway. The answer came quietly. For several seconds, Lorenzo said nothing. Then he nodded once. The conversation ended. But something about his expression worried her. It looked like someone had just signed Derek's death warrant. A few days later, rumors spread throughout the building. People whispered whenever Evelyn passed. Some claimed Lorenzo personally reviewed all her reports. Others claimed she had access to private meetings. A few believed she was becoming untouchable. Then security around her suddenly increased. 2 bodyguards now followed her everywhere. At first, she protested. This isn't necessary. One guard smiled. Boss disagrees. Evelyn didn't know whether to feel protected or terrified. Probably both. Then came the charity gala. One of the biggest social events of the year. Business leaders. Politicians. Celebrities. Everyone important would attend. To Evelyn's surprise, Lorenzo personally invited her. When she arrived at her apartment that evening, she discovered several garment bags waiting. Inside was a beautiful emerald green velvet dress. The fabric felt soft beneath her fingers. Elegant. Powerful. For the first time in years, she didn't try to hide her curves. She embraced them. When she entered the ballroom later that night, heads turned. People stared. Not with mockery. With surprise. With admiration. Evelyn hardly recognized herself. For a few precious moments, she felt confident. Then she heard a familiar voice. Evelyn. Her stomach dropped. She turned around. Derek stood only a few feet away. His face was pale with shock. He looked her up and down. You look amazing. Evelyn said nothing. Derek stepped closer. I've been trying to call you. Still nothing. His smile became nervous. I made a mistake. You made several. Evelyn, please. For the first time, she saw fear in his eyes. Real fear. As if he suddenly realized what he had lost. I miss you. She almost laughed. Now he missed her. After humiliating her. After cheating on her. After breaking her heart. Derek reached for her hand. Evelyn, can we talk? Before she could answer, the room became strangely quiet. Conversation stopped. Music seemed to fade. People stepped aside. Derek slowly looked behind her. His face lost all color. A powerful hand settled gently against Evelyn's waist. Warm. Protective. Possessive. Lorenzo Moretti stood beside her. His expression was calm. But his eyes were ice. He looked directly at Derek. Then his deep voice filled the silence. Is there a problem here? And for the first time, Derek looked truly terrified. Derek froze. The entire ballroom seemed to stop breathing. Lorenzo's hand remained on Evelyn's waist as his cold eyes stayed fixed on Derek. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Derek forced a nervous smile. No problem at all. Lorenzo said nothing. The silence felt worse than any threat. Derek quickly stepped back. I was just congratulating Evelyn. Lorenzo's expression never changed. You're done. The words were calm. Simple. But Derek immediately nodded. Of course. Within seconds, he disappeared into the crowd. Evelyn watched him leave. For years, Derek had been confident and arrogant. Tonight, he looked like a frightened child. Lorenzo glanced at her. Are you all right? Evelyn nodded. Yes. But the truth was more complicated. She wasn't used to having someone stand beside her, protect her, choose her. The feeling was still new and dangerous, because every day she found herself thinking about Lorenzo more. After the gala, life became busier. Evelyn spent most of her time inside Lorenzo's headquarters. The investigation into the missing money continued. The deeper she looked, the uglier the situation became. Millions of dollars had disappeared through fake companies, private accounts, hidden transactions. Some of the money eventually reached organizations connected to Lorenzo's rivals. That discovery changed everything. One evening, Evelyn sat alone in her office reviewing files. The clock showed nearly midnight. Most employees had gone home. Only security guards remained. She rubbed her tired eyes and continued working. Suddenly, a cup of coffee appeared beside her. She looked up. Lorenzo stood there. "You should rest." She smiled softly. "You've said that 3 times tonight. And you've ignored me 3 times. His answer made her laugh. A real laugh. The kind she hadn't experienced in a long time. For a second, Lorenzo simply watched her. Something warm appeared in his usually cold eyes. Evelyn quickly looked back at her computer. Her heart was beating faster than it should. Lorenzo pulled up a chair beside her. "Show me what you found." For the next 2 hours, they worked together. Their shoulders occasionally brushed. Their conversations became easier, more natural. Evelyn found herself enjoying these late nights. Too much. By the time Lorenzo finally left, she was smiling. Then she noticed something unusual. A transaction hidden among hundreds of normal payments. Her smile disappeared. She leaned closer. Then closer still. The transaction connected directly to one of Lorenzo's biggest enemies. A powerful criminal group operating overseas. Evelyn immediately printed the records. The next morning, Lorenzo reviewed everything. His expression darkened. "They funded the attacks." Evelyn nodded. "It appears that way." For several moments, Lorenzo remained silent. Then he stood. "Good work." The words sounded simple, but Evelyn knew they meant a lot coming from him. Over the following weeks, strange things started happening to Derek. At first, they seemed like bad luck. One investor suddenly pulled out of his company. Then another. Then another. Several business deals collapsed without warning. Important contracts disappeared. Major clients left. The financial news began reporting problems inside his company. Derek became desperate. He called Evelyn repeatedly. She ignored every call. One afternoon, he appeared outside Lorenzo's headquarters. Security refused to let him inside. Evelyn watched from a window. Derek looked exhausted. His expensive suits no longer appeared perfect. Dark circles sat beneath his eyes. Fear had replaced confidence. She should have felt sorry for him. Instead, she felt nothing. That chapter of her life was over. A few days later, Lorenzo invited Evelyn to dinner. Not a business meeting. Not an office discussion. Just dinner. The restaurant overlooked the city skyline. Soft music played in the background. Candles flickered across the room. For the first time, they talked about things unrelated to money. Childhood memories. Dreams. Regrets. Life. Evelyn learned that Lorenzo rarely trusted anyone. Almost everyone wanted something from him. Power. Money. Influence. Fear. Very few people treated him like a normal person. "You do," he said quietly. Evelyn looked surprised. "What?" "You speak to me differently." His voice was softer than usual. "You don't seem afraid." She smiled. "I was terrified when we met." A rare smile touched Lorenzo's face. The sight nearly stole her breath. The ruthless Mafia boss suddenly looked almost human. For a moment, neither looked away. Something unspoken passed between them. Something neither was ready to name. Then Lorenzo's phone rang. The moment vanished instantly. He answered. His expression became cold again. When the call ended, he looked at Evelyn. We have a problem. Back at headquarters, new information had arrived. Another hidden account had been discovered. Evelyn immediately joined the investigation. Hours passed. The team followed transaction after transaction. The trail eventually led somewhere unexpected. Very unexpected. Evelyn stared at the final report. No? One of the analysts looked confused. What is it? Her stomach tightened. This couldn't be right. She checked the records again. Then a third time. The answer remained the same. Slowly, she stood and walked toward Lorenzo's office. He looked up when she entered. Something in her expression made him sit forward. What happened? Evelyn placed the report on his desk. Lorenzo reviewed the documents. The room became completely silent. His eyes narrowed. Danger filled the air. Because the person stealing from him wasn't a low-level employee. Wasn't a captain. Wasn't an outsider. The financial trail pointed directly toward someone much closer. Someone trusted. Someone powerful. Someone who had spent years standing beside Lorenzo. Evelyn swallowed hard. The realization felt like a punch to the chest. Because the traitor hiding inside Lorenzo's empire was one of his most trusted advisors. And if the report was correct, they had just uncovered a betrayal far bigger than anyone imagined. The name on the report was Victor Romano. Evelyn stared at it in disbelief. Victor had worked beside Lorenzo for almost 10 years. He attended private meetings. He handled important operations. He knew secrets that very few people knew. Most importantly, Lorenzo trusted him. The silence inside the office felt heavy. Lorenzo slowly closed the report. His face showed no emotion. That worried Evelyn more than anger would have. What do we do now? She asked quietly. Lorenzo leaned back in his chair. We prove it. You don't believe the evidence. I believe it. His gray eyes darkened. But if Victor has been stealing from me for years, then he's smarter than most people think. Evelyn understood immediately. Victor would never confess. Not without a trap. For the next week, Lorenzo and Evelyn worked in secret. Nobody knew what they were planning. Not even Lorenzo's closest people. Together they created false financial records. Fake accounts. Fake transfers. Fake opportunities. Everything was designed to tempt the traitor. If Victor was truly stealing money, he wouldn't be able to resist. Late one evening, Evelyn reviewed the final documents. Her eyes felt tired. Lorenzo sat across from her. The room was quiet except for the sound of turning pages. You should go home, he said. So should you. A small smile appeared on his face. That's different. Why? Because I own the building. Evelyn laughed. Lorenzo watched her for a moment. The warmth in his eyes returned. The same warmth she had begun noticing more often. It made her heart race. Sometimes she forgot he was one of the most feared men in the country. Then he would give someone a cold look and she would remember immediately. The following morning, the trap was activated. The fake accounts were entered into the system. The information was carefully leaked. Then everyone waited. 3 days passed. Nothing happened. 4 days. Still nothing. By the 5th day, Evelyn began worrying. Maybe they were wrong. Maybe Victor wasn't the traitor. Then everything changed. An alert appeared on her computer. Someone had accessed the fake accounts. Someone with high-level clearance. Evelyn immediately checked the logs. Her pulse quickened. There it was. Victor's authorization code. The trap had worked. By evening, Victor had already attempted to move money through the fake network. Every action was recorded. Every click. Every transfer. Every mistake. Lorenzo looked at the evidence. His face became colder with every page. It ends tonight. Meanwhile, Derek's life continued falling apart. His company was drowning in debt. Banks refused new loans. Investors demanded answers. Employees began resigning. News reporters camped outside his office building. The pressure became unbearable. Desperate people make dangerous choices. And Derek was becoming very desperate. One afternoon, he secretly met with men connected to Lorenzo's enemies. He needed money. They needed information. It was a terrible decision. Unfortunately for Derek, Lorenzo already knew. Because Evelyn had discovered financial transfers connecting everyone together. Victor. Derek. The rival organization. The entire network was finally visible. Years of betrayal were coming apart. The final confrontation happened inside one of Lorenzo's private warehouses. Every captain was present. Every trusted member attended. Victor stood confidently near the front. He had no idea what was coming. Lorenzo entered first. Evelyn followed beside him. The room immediately became silent. Victor smiled. "Boss." Lorenzo said nothing. Instead, he placed several folders on a table. Victor's smile faded slightly. Lorenzo opened the first folder. Bank records. The second. Transfer reports. The third. Authorization logs. The fourth. Secret communications. With every document, Victor's face grew paler. The room filled with shocked whispers. "This is impossible," Victor said. Lorenzo's voice remained calm. "Is it?" Victor looked around. Nobody defended him. Nobody spoke. The evidence was overwhelming. Years of theft. Years of lies. Years of betrayal. Finally, Victor's shoulders dropped. He knew the game was over. The truth stood exposed before everyone. One of the captains slammed his fist against the table. "You sold us out." Another cursed loudly. Victor remained silent. For the first time, fear appeared in his eyes. The mighty advisor had become a trapped man. Then Lorenzo stepped forward. The entire room became still. His voice dropped to a deadly whisper. "You stole from me." Victor lowered his head. "You betrayed me." Still no answer. Lorenzo's eyes hardened. "And you endangered people I protect." Everyone knew exactly who he meant. Evelyn. The room understood it too. Several captains exchanged knowing looks. Rumors about Lorenzo and Evelyn had spread everywhere. Victor was removed immediately. His power vanished in a single night. His accounts were frozen. His properties seized. His influence destroyed. The man who once stood near the top lost everything. But the nightmare wasn't over. Not yet. Because during his final interrogation, Victor revealed something unexpected. Something terrifying. Evelyn and Lorenzo reviewed the recorded statement together. Neither spoke for several moments. The information sounded impossible. Yet Victor had no reason to lie now. According to him, the rival organization wasn't finished. The money theft had only been one part of a much larger plan. A much darker plan. Evelyn slowly looked up from the report. A chill ran down her spine. "What does this mean?" Lorenzo's expression became deadly serious. "It means you're in danger." Evelyn's heart skipped. Victor had revealed her name to powerful people overseas. People connected to an international crime family. People who believed she was responsible for exposing their financial network. Now they wanted revenge. And according to Victor, they had already begun making plans. Plans centered around one target. Evelyn Carter. For the first time since joining Lorenzo's world, she realized something terrifying. She wasn't just investigating dangerous people anymore. She had become their next target. And somewhere out there, powerful enemies were already moving toward her. Evelyn barely slept after learning the truth. For days, the warning stayed in her mind. Powerful people wanted revenge. Not because she had hurt them. Not because she had attacked them. But because she had uncovered the truth. For years, Evelyn had felt invisible. Now she was suddenly important enough to become a target. The thought was terrifying. The next morning, she found Lorenzo waiting outside her office. His expression was serious. "You won't be staying alone anymore." Evelyn sighed. "Lorenzo." "No." His voice was firm. "Not this time." She knew arguing would accomplish nothing. Lorenzo had already made up his mind. Within hours, additional security teams appeared. Bodyguards accompanied her everywhere. Her routes changed daily. Every precaution was taken. At first, Evelyn hated it. But then she noticed something. Lorenzo was always nearby. Always checking on her. Always making sure she was safe. One evening, she found him standing on a balcony overlooking the city. The light stretched endlessly beneath them. For several moments, neither spoke. Then Evelyn quietly asked, "Why are you doing all this for me?" Lorenzo looked at her. His gray eyes softened. "Because you're important." Her heart skipped. Important. Nobody had ever said that to her the way Lorenzo did. Not Derek. Not her former co-workers. Nobody. Before she could respond, Lorenzo stepped closer. "You changed everything." Evelyn stared at him. "What do you mean?" "You saved my organization." His voice remained calm. "You exposed the people who betrayed me." He paused. "And you reminded me that trust still exists." Emotion filled her chest. For a moment, neither looked away. Then Lorenzo gently took her hand. The city seemed to disappear around them. Only the two of them remained. Meanwhile, the enemy organization continued making mistakes. The more pressure they faced, the more desperate they became. And that desperation created opportunities. Evelyn spent weeks analyzing records from banks, corporations, and offshore accounts. Slowly, she uncovered the hidden financial structure supporting the entire operation. The discovery shocked even Lorenzo. "They've hidden billions." Evelyn nodded. But not well enough. For the first time, she fully understood her own power. She didn't need weapons. She didn't need threats. Numbers were her weapon. Truth was her weapon. And she was very good at using both. Working together, Evelyn and Lorenzo began dismantling the network. Hidden accounts were exposed. Illegal transactions were uncovered. Business partners disappeared. Investors fled. The organization started collapsing from the inside. Every week brought new losses. Every month brought new investigations. The empire that once seemed untouchable began falling apart. And there was nothing they could do to stop it. Then came the final blow. Authorities launched major investigations into several connected companies. Financial records surfaced. Evidence emerged. The remaining leadership turned against each other. Within days, the organization fractured completely. Years of power vanished almost overnight. When the news finally broke, everyone was talking about it. The collapse became front-page news. Business channels discussed it. Financial experts analyzed it. And standing quietly behind it all was Evelyn Carter. The woman nobody had respected. The woman everyone had underestimated. Including Derek. By now, Derek's company had completely fallen apart. His reputation was ruined. His investors were gone. His influence had vanished. One afternoon, he saw Evelyn during a public event. For several seconds, he simply stared. She looked different now. Not because she had changed who she was, but because she no longer hid herself. Confidence had replaced insecurity. Strength had replaced fear. People listened when she spoke. People respected her. Derek looked away first, because he finally understood what he had thrown away. A few weeks later, Lorenzo organized a celebration. Not for himself. For Evelyn. The event took place inside one of the most beautiful ballrooms in the city. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead. Music filled the air. Important guests arrived from across the country. Business leaders. Partners. Friends. All gathered for one reason. To honor the woman who had saved an empire. When Evelyn entered the ballroom, conversation stopped. She wore a deep emerald velvet dress. The rich fabric shimmered beneath the lights. For the first time in her life, she felt truly seen. Not judged. Not mocked. Seen. Lorenzo stood waiting for her at the center of the room. His eyes never left her. As she approached, he offered his hand. She accepted it. The room watched silently. Then Lorenzo turned toward the crowd. His voice carried through the ballroom. Many people thought Evelyn Carter was ordinary. He paused. They were wrong. The guests listened carefully. She is the smartest person in this room. A few people smiled. Others nodded. Lorenzo continued. Without her, none of us would be standing here today. The applause began. Then it grew louder. And louder. Until the entire ballroom erupted. Evelyn felt tears gathering in her eyes. For so many years, she had doubted herself. Now she finally understood something important. Their opinions had never defined her worth. Not Derek's. Not Sandra's. Not anyone's. Lorenzo gently squeezed her hand. When the applause faded, he looked at her. Only her. You deserve all of it. Evelyn smiled. And for the first time, she believed it. As the evening continued, they danced beneath the lights. The future remained uncertain. Life always was. But one thing was clear. The woman nobody respected had become one of the most respected people in the room. And the ruthless Mafia boss who trusted nobody had found the one person he trusted completely. Together, they had survived betrayal. Together, they had defeated powerful enemies. And together, they would build something far stronger than either of them ever expected. A future. A partnership. And a love that neither of them had been searching for, but both had found. The end. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your favorite moment in the comments. Was it Evelyn's first meeting with Lorenzo, Derek's downfall, or the moment Evelyn finally realized her true worth? Let us know below.